Hey there, Soulful Sister. Welcome to the Soulful Menopause podcast. I am so excited for you to join Chris Maddox and myself for a beautiful conversation, which I hope will inspire you, comfort you, and support you. And it's probably going to benefit you in many other ways too, because this is such a rich and soulful conversation. It's filled with oodles of wisdom and many, many insights. So, can I request one thing of you today? Please don't let this podcast be something that you've resonated with and then you just let it go and forget all about it, okay? It's far too good for that. And as you listen, perhaps just take a note of what speaks to you and then maybe pause it at that point and take a few moments to reflect on the meaning that it has in your life. Maybe then you want to ask yourself something like, how can I implement this in my life? How can I make sure this enhances my life in some way? It doesn't have to be a big thing at all. Perhaps it's a new way of thinking about something or a new way of seeing things. Maybe there's just one sentence in this that's really resonated with you and you're going to take that on board. I really want this episode to be something empowering for you. And if it does inspire you, if it does empower you, please share it with the women that you love in your life. Because this way we can cultivate and grow some extra love and joy and empowerment on this planet. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me give you a bit of background into Chris Maddox. She's the founder of the Wild Woman Project, where she teaches women how to utilize the gifts of the wild woman archetype in their everyday lives, and how to lead women's circles in their local communities. She's the organizer and facilitator of the beloved annual Wild Woman Fest, a women's retreat festival hybrid which fosters a deep connection to nature, a direct experience of the divine feminine, and profound spiritual sisterhood among the women in attendance. An ever student of the great mysteries of existence and nature itself, Chris believes women are holding innate gifts and tools that society at large needs, now more than ever. She is committed to helping women remember their special magic and to bring it forward into every corner of their lives for the greater good of the planet. Now, just before we dive in, here's a sneak peek of what's to come.
And so I picture a throne right there and to sit on it and no, it's a seat that's for me. It's just for me. And at different times in my life, I think I've allowed, mostly subconsciously, other ideas, people, forces to sit on that throne. And this poem, represents a time of clearing that out. And I think, it's something to check in with every once in a while to be like, what am I serving here? Who's guiding? Am I still the captain of this ship? Am I still the queen of my life? The king of my life? And to make sure. And I think sometimes that needs fine tuning and clearing out.
Welcome to the Soulful Menopause podcast. Discover how to transform the chaos of menopause into vibrant health and a soulful life you'll love. I'm Sally Love, natural nutritionist, hypnotherapist, and soul wisdom coach. I want you to experience a soulful menopause that will guide you into the best years of your life. I am so thrilled to have you on this podcast, Chris. I was I was actually in the process of looking for a poem to read out from my sacred circle. So I run a women's circle once a month. I've been doing it online for several years now. And so I was looking for a poem to share with them, and I came across yours, and it blew me away. It just touched me so deeply that I thought, oh my God, this is just too good to read. It's just like so much. It's full of wisdom, it's full of soul. And I thought, I've got to write to you. And so I'm really thrilled that you agreed to share your poem and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Sally. I'm so happy you found this poem. It's a really, I have it always pinned on my wall. It's a very personal poem. So thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh, me too. I can't wait to get stuck in. But I do have a further, a few questions for you to begin
Mhm.
with. Um, and so I would first really want to just start, I suppose, at the beginning with your Wild Woman project. I would love to know, just maybe if there are, you can put it in a nutshell, if it is at all possible, what the wild woman archetype is. I mean, what's the definition of being a wild woman? What's the embodiment of it?
Yeah, I want to right off the bat just name Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote the extraordinary book Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype. Because this is where I ever first heard those words, wild woman and wild woman archetype. So and ever since I heard that so many years ago now, sort of opened me up to this energy, which I think so many of us have access to, and so many of us have a call towards. So the wild woman is the part of ourself which is remembering, I think, of something very old, trying to remember something very old. Those of us who are interested in dreams, both sleeping and waking dreams, those of us who are called towards the woods, to the forest, to the mountains, to the oceans, who find something deep and powerful and meaningful in the natural world. I think the wild woman archetype also really speaks to someone who has a boldness in her. I think when we're called to the wild woman archetype, there's a boldness that wants to come through. Like, there are thousands of reasons why we dim ourselves, while we shrink ourselves, while we tame ourselves. And I think when the moment comes and the wild woman comes knocking, it's a moment where that woman is ready to be fully expressed, to shine without apology, to speak her voice, her wisdom, to be who she wants to be in the world, and to kind of lay down the expectations that have come from the society or come from the family or come from all these external places, and start to turn toward the compass that lives inside. And I think the last thing I'll say is, Dr. Assis in her book compares over and over again the wild woman archetype to the nature of wolves. And I think
Yes.
that's really powerful because it also names the pack orientation. So wild women are very, very, very loyal. They are devoted to their pack, whoever that is, whether it's their friends, their community, their family, whoever is their pack, and really show up in that way. And I think that community aspect, that community care is something that gets lost in a lot of conversations about the wild woman and the wild woman archetype because of that boldness. So here it's a powerful thing to be bold and to honor oneself within community. And there's a dynamism within that. That is important to name. So those are a few things. That's how I would begin to have the wild woman archetype conversation. I hope that's
Oh,
nutshell enough.
yeah, I mean, that's so beautiful, Chris. It really is. And there's so many things in that when you were talking that I was just going, yes, yes, yes. I mean, one of them
Yeah.
was, particularly for women moving through menopause, that inner compass is like at first spinning all around the place. They're like, I don't know who I am, what's going on, where am I, who am I? And I really do feel that there's a very powerful journey that women are called to go on during this time. And it is very much about, what you're speaking about and what this poem is that you're going to be sharing. So that's so beautiful. And also, when you talk about being drawn to nature, being drawn to the woods and the sea and, the mountains and countryside, and this is something that I felt ever since I was probably about, I don't know, maybe about 6 years old or so. I used to run away from home to the top of the road.
Amazing.
And at the top of the road, there was this post box, and it was right next to a big field. And I used to sit there with a bag of like loads of fruit that I'd stolen from the fruit basket at home. And no coincidence that I became a nutritionist, but
Whole Foods.
yes. So I would take these up to the top of the road and I would sit there and look across those fields. And even to this day, Chris, I don't have words to describe the connection that I have to nature. It's like it's impossible to describe it in human form if you can understand what that means.
Yes, I can. I
It,
know
it
what you mean.
Yeah,
I
it
can go.
just deeply calls me, and I live in the countryside now, and I take my dog for a walk, and I just see magic everywhere. I'm just looking
Mm.
into. Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, even yesterday I drove past this tree which was hollowed out, and naturally, and then I just thought, oh, what lives in there, and suddenly I'm off on this magical journey in my head. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Beautiful. I hope someone listening is a painter to paint that extraordinary image of little wild Sally with her basket full of fruit on the top of the hillside looking out over the field. Like what an incredible image. And I think so many of us can remember back to a time in childhood and in our girlhood where we had moments like that. I mean, sitting in circle, I've heard so many stories of just this very, very natural, like breathing connection to the trees and to the moss and to the waters and to the sands or wherever the little girl has grown up. But just I think it's something we come in with. And I think part of the reason it's something we come in with is because it's baked into the bread of our DNA. That's what most of our ancestors, regardless of where you are from around the world, most of our ancestors lived in such intimate connection to the natural world. And I think probably did not perceive as much of a separation between themselves and the living world around them. I think that's part of that old knowing. Part of that old knowing is just that remembrance that maybe it's all one thing, like maybe all of the living world is something that I am stitched into, that I
Mm.
am a part of,
Mhm.
versus there's me and there's a natural world and I'm trying to connect to it, but rather remembering there is no separation. We are
Mhm.
constantly exchanging gifts, with the trees. We exhale out carbon dioxide, which feeds them, and they give us oxygen. I mean, this is only one of the many ways that we're constantly um, living and being in this interdependent way with the natural world. It's an extraordinary thing to experience and to remember and to tap into in every way that we can. And it sounds like you do some of that with your food,
Yes,
like
absolutely.
eating an apple off the tree. The peaches are coming in beautifully on our little homestead here, and I can't wait, and there it is. It's there is that direct connection, that kind of flesh to flesh connection with the living world. It's powerful.
Really is, yes. Oh, I had such an image then of the delicious warm peach from a tree. How fab
Mm.
that. Yeah. Oh, I've got a craving for one now.
Yum.
Oh, yes. And I used to dream of wolves when I was, what, 11 or so. So
Wow.
yes, it's always been very present for me. Um,
Mm.
so that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your insights around that.
Mhm.
So I'm really wondering, Chris, what actually led you to do the work that you do now?
I often think of it like the fool's path,
Mhm.
one thing leading to the next thing. But I think in my spiritual seeking, I had a pretty major spiritual awakening experience around the age of 19, 20.
Mhm.
I was devoutly atheist as a teen, devoutly, and by the time I was 19 or 20, I had that belief expired, and something new, mostly in the form of a deep curiosity about this extraordinary experience I had had in a movement meditation class. Um, in a It's a technique called the lucid body,
Okay.
founded by Faye Simpson, and it was with Faye Simpson. Anyways, I was a kid, and I had this extraordinary experience, and it started me on my spiritual quest, on what is this, what is going on, and trying to move closer to, just trying everything under the sun. I lived in New York City in my 20s, so I went to every strange and unusual workshop, a metaphysical happening that you could ever find. I studied with a wizard for a short time. Like
Oh,
I
so
just,
cool.
I really just dove in, just kind of looking and seeking. I eventually studied yoga and started teaching yoga. And I was wondering almost everywhere I went at that time, where are the feminine faces of the divine? I kept running into lineages that had been passed down over centuries, or passed down male to male to male to male to male, and just kind of wondering, is this even for me? It sounds like these practices and ideas are often, exchanged between men. And I know, so I just, where are the women? Where are the women? Where are the women? And I was so hungry at that time. It was like I was starved for female faces of the divine, or something that something in a myth that looked like anything in my experience. And I was a theater person. I had been involved in the vagina monologues in New York several times, and as an actor and as a director and organizer. And it was my first time really being in an all women's space. And there was something in that space that fed that hunger.
Mhm.
And so once I started teaching yoga, and I eventually apprenticed with Faye Simpson, did the lucid body. I started facilitating lucid body workshops. I was out there, I was doing things, and I was invited by one of the studio owners where I taught yoga to lead a women's circle. And so I called it the New Moon Women's Circle, led it for a couple of years, had just experimented and experimented, but had extremely powerful connections. And like I said, just fed that hunger. And it was around that time that I first read Women Who Run with the Wolves. And in fact, I had been, people kept suggesting it to me like dozens of times. And I finally picked up the book, and it was a pretty life-changing read. I started to think, okay, um, this is a powerful force and I want to walk with it. I want to play with the wild woman archetype. I want to explore that dimension of myself. And I think these circles are supportive of that quest. And they're also supportive of so many things that I believed in and wanted to see more of in the world. I wanted to see more spaces where women gathered. I wanted to see more spaces where the divine feminine was honored, where qualities like intuition and instinct and creativity and being and birthing were honored. Um, and so I started the Wild Woman Project when I was 27 years old. I was living in New York City, and the primary aim was the same as it is now, which is to see women's circles happening around the world. And we have Wild Woman Project facilitators now, 13 plus years later, in 27 countries around the world. There are hundreds of us facilitating circles, and in our own way, because wild women like a little structure, but not a lot. But the power of sitting in circle, and there's something about it. There's something about it that is medicinal to a lot of the more hierarchical, patriarchal or male dominated paths that are out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
I
totally.
wanted something circular.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
In circle, um, it's where so much magic happens, and a really deep seeing of one another, and
Yes.
such a supportive place, where, like you say, everybody's equal. There's no,
Yep.
there's no hierarchical stuff going on. It's raw, and it's I think it's something about women where they can, if they're in a safe space, they can completely open up and be so raw with everything, and
Mm.
not feel like, oh, I can't say this because people will think this of me or whatever. It's such a beautiful safe space to be, where you can really fully, you can do so much. You can explore, you can support, you can be supported. I mean, it's just the most, it really, even for me as being the facilitator of one of them, it just has brought so much richness to my life. I can't tell you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're singing my song. I hear that 110%. I always think about, and I'll say often, as the facilitator for facilitators who train with me, and for myself, the circle holds you as you hold it,
Yes.
just as much,
Yeah.
just as much. It's like it is truly equal footing. And I love what you said about the rawness. It's that real, I think we have a hunger for what's real, what's really going on with you, what's really going on with me. Can we be in a space where we can take any and all masks off and allow for what's true to emerge? And sometimes it surprises us often. I
Oh,
never
yes.
know. I never know what's going to happen in circle, and I'm always just like walking out most of the time, just slack jawed, like
Yes.
what just happened?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so amazing. You certainly can't have an agenda really in a circle.
You can have a plan, but don't expect to keep it fully.
Absolutely. Oh, so what? Oh, I got goosebumps talking about that. It's just so amazing, and it's something that the work that you're doing with that is truly amazing, Chris. Because we this is what changes the world. This really is just person by person, circle by circle. It really does change the world. That's being an activist in my mind.
Thank you.
Sitting in circle, yeah, that's just so beautiful. So I want to move forward to your poem, your beautiful, beautiful poem, which when you first read it, you can think, oh wow, that's really simple, but oh my word, there's so much in it. So I think first of all, I would actually, and this might be an interesting question to ask in the beginning rather than at the end, but what actually inspired you to write this poem?
I wrote this poem very quickly. It came as some things do, just clear and direct. And you're right that it's simple, which for me, that's helpful for me in all things. I lean towards simplicity in all things. The more years I gather, as Dr. Estes would say, the simpler I like to keep things. But this came through on a winter solstice in 2017.
Mhm.
And it was on the heels of this many year long process where, in all of my spiritual seeking and questing, I kept running into variations on hierarchy, variations on gatekeepers, variations on messages that that there was that I needed somebody else to tell me, to mentor me, to teach me, to give me, to guide me, to give me the stamp of approval that never fully would come. And just this, I had this vision, like, not, it was very, very close to when I wrote this poem. It was right before. And I was laying on my mat after a yoga class. And I was just, when you just had enough. And that whole thing, I was just so many, I was like, I'm, you don't curse on this podcast. I am so done with this. And I had this vision of me with a sword in this dark, it was like this dark room or womb space or something. And I literally just spun in a circle, cutting like all the cords to that kind of thought process, all those kinds of ideas that I could not be trusted with my own inner guidance, my own spiritual transformation, my own path, like all the places. And there, those messages are everywhere. And I just, it was a very mystical experience laying there still with my eyes closed. And it was not long after that that I wrote this poem.
Well, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Give you a little
Yeah.
context.
Oh, how wonderful. Wow, that sounds immensely powerful. So, yeah, would you mind going ahead and reading it for us?
Yeah, I would love to.
Thank you.
So it's called She Decided. There once was a woman who decided, despite all she'd been taught, to trust herself. She reclaimed her body, her heart, her mind, her desires, her actions, and her voice as her own sacred trust. She decided to believe that she was not an accident, nor were the impulses that ran so freely through her. She decided to believe she was worthy of sitting on the throne of her own spiritual authority. There once was a woman who decided to believe in the magic within.
So beautifully read as well. Oh, wow. I just, so I said this is really simple, but actually I've got so many questions to ask you about it because it's
Yeah.
it's very deep. There is a lot in this. There's a huge amount in this. I mean, maybe we can work our way through it with regard to the little notes I've made. So the
Yeah.
first paragraph, there was once a woman who decided, despite all she'd been taught, to trust herself. And that that speaks a lot to me, particularly being a hypnotherapist. Part of my work is really helping people to really untangle themselves of the old beliefs that they carry, and these old beliefs from childhood, and old beliefs from society, and the ones that we're conscious of, the ones we're unconscious of. And I mean, on a daily basis, we're being bombarded with what we should look like, what we should do, how we should feel, what's right, what's wrong. I mean, it's just so noisy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that I absolutely love that, despite all she'd been taught. I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, is there anything you would like to speak to that part? Um, because what was happening for you at that specific time when you are saying that despite everything that you've been taught, you are gonna trust yourself?
Yeah. I think I was very, I had been trying to fit my my spiritual path into particular lineages. And if you go to study with a teacher in some of these were traditions out of India, which I have a lot of reverence for, yoga traditions, Sufi traditions that I really at different points really steeped myself in. But there was this idea I kept hearing, which was you can't, spiritually speaking, you can't have one foot in two boats.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
was an idea that I kept hearing again and again and again. And so I kept trying to squeeze myself into a boat. And everything within me rejected that. It
Mm.
just, but I tried, but it's like trying to squeeze yourself into jeans that are three sizes too small, you know? It just, you can't breathe. And eventually you have to cut yourself out or you take them off or whatever. And I think that, that was the particular message that was at that time that I was really grappling with. And it was a big deal because I'm trying to remember how old I was in 2017, but I'm working on I was in the middle of my 30s somewhere, I think, probably. Um, and, I still didn't quite feel like, like I had this feeling of not being able to fully trust my own spiritual guidance. And
Mm.
that's looking back, what a shame, like because I think that's insane. I think that just like your little wild girl probably had everything she needed to know in her basket with the fruit on the top of the hill looking at the field. I think we're like that. And I but I think I don't begrudge any step in the process because every part of it was important for
Mm,
my overall understanding. And
mm,
there certainly are things, and there is a time when you're younger where it's good to humble yourself a little bit and explore wholeheartedly other ways of thinking. And
mm,
I did that, and I did that for years. And by the time this poem was ready, I was done. I was clear that I was done with that phase. I was clear that, you know what? I come from a background. I come from, my mother is Mexican, and on that side, there's indigenous blood mixed with like curandismo, mixed with Catholicism. On
yeah,
my dad's side, there's my dad's side's like a nature loving, non-religious but spiritual kind of archetype over here, originally from, where you are,
yeah.
way back generations. And I am a mix. How
How
could I
wonderful.
possibly like fit myself in one boat? So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I
I
needed to
mean,
make
wow,
my own boat.
you're carrying so much wisdom with you there. That's so incredible. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and you're right. It's like when you're listening to yourself, despite everything you've been taught to trust yourself, trusting yourself can be really, it sounds simple, but it really can be quite challenging sometimes when you've got to wade your way through fear or doubt or people pleasing or all of these other things that can sometimes even masquerade as your self-trust or your inner knowing or
Right.
whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So, yeah, absolutely.
The development of discernment is essential because
Yeah.
there is a lot going on in the inner world,
Yeah.
which is why it can be helpful to study with other people and get these different perspectives. It is very, very helpful. But ultimately, I think where my path led me, and where I think a lot of women eventually want to go, because, and I think a lot of, when I say women specifically want to eventually go in this other direction, is because of what I said, way earlier in our conversation about, like, a lot of these teachings and a lot of these practices were passed down man to man. They were as a man teacher teaching to a primary male audience, and not all, but a lot. And I think women, we were lost in the culture and in the society because of our status. We weren't,
Mhm.
depending upon your culture, allowed to be in the same room to be receiving so
Mhm.
we are looking for, our work is different. Our work is different. And I think the recovery of our intuition and the inner voice, that you must do with discernment, because sometimes, like you said, your anxiety will come in masquerading. But if you have discernment, you learn to hear the difference between the voice or the instinct that is your anxiety versus the voice or the instinct that is your heart, your soul, your inner compass, however you conceptualize that deep center of yourself.
Absolutely, beautifully put. Yeah, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Um, and that does sort of lead me on to the second paragraph you've had. And by the way, my dog is snoring away behind me. So if you hear these strange
Oh,
noises,
I'm so sad I don't hear it.
I
My
think
dog snores too.
I think she's really enjoying our conversation. Like, it's really calmed and chilled by our conversation, by our energy here, which is really lovely.
I love that.
Oh, but yeah, she reclaimed her body, her heart, her mind, her desires, her actions, and her voice as her own sacred trust. And this is what women are moving through in menopause, big time.
Mm,
It's a reclamation, I would say, not of our old selves, but a reclamation of our soul, of who we are at the core of us, minus all of the noise and the challenges and the air, the junk, or whatever else of life.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that and can totally relate to that with regard to menopause as well.
Wow, I love
Um,
that framing.
yeah, it is that reclamation, and it's a really powerful journey that you are invited on in
Yeah.
menopause. I have something called the Soulful Menopause Journey, which is takes women through this process of, I would say, a reclamation, yeah, but not to be confused with going back to an old self. That reclamation is as I think, as you were saying when you were talking about our deep
Yeah.
belonging to nature. That's what that reclamation is, isn't it?
Mm. It's a big part of it. I think it's a very, very big part of it because then you start to get at, I mean, very philosophical stuff here, like nature of reality. Like, what do we know for a fact about what is happening here? Well, we know we are alive by the metrics that we have. We know that we are alive. We know that we breathe. We know that our life starts, essentially when the heart starts beating. That's how how it's detected that there's a life in the womb. And then, when the heart stops, we know that our time here is complete, and we don't get to know what happens next. That's a mystery, and very personal. That's everyone's right to make for themselves what they believe happens or might happen then. But when we talk about the connection to the living world, I think it helps to remind us, here we are alive. We are alive, and we are alive for actually a very short time,
Mhm.
even if we have very long lives by our normal metric. Like, it's a flash.
Mm, mm,
And to think, when we remember that, it brings us into immediate presence, immediate, like, full body. When we remember it, like, without fear, or maybe just a dash of fear, just for liveliness sake, it wakes us up. It wakes us up. It reminds us to come into our body and to be right here where our heart is, and to have our mind here too, and, like, to not miss it. And to listen to all the it's this extraordinary wealth that we have, all these things, like our desires, like our voice, like the actions we get to choose to
mm,
make, you
mhm.
know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And even on a very should I say, superficial level, although I wouldn't call it really superficial when you look into it, about reclaiming your body, which is something that is really tough when you're going through menopause, because everything starts shifting and changing, and your body can go through some really big challenges with that, which
Yeah.
include your body aching all over and hot flashes and all sorts of things. I had weird rashes and all sorts of things going on as well,
Mm.
digestive issues. I mean, it's just, I could sit here for 10 minutes just reeling off all the things that can happen just to the body alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
as well as everything that's portrayed to us in society about how your body should look, and it's all youth driven. And so when you get to menopause, it's like, oh wow, am I just becoming invisible now? Or my body shouldn't be looking like this, it should be looking like, society tells me it should be looking. And
Mm.
so I think, even on that level, reclaiming your body, as you say in your poem there, that's no small thing.
No, it is not. It is not a small thing. I love the dimension you're giving, because I'm 41, and I am not in menopause yet, but it's on the horizon and I feel it. I feel it on every level in
Hmm.
my body. I'm like, oh, and you hear little things as you come of age, the elders ahead of you will share little things. And I'm in a good habit of asking all of, like, my mother, my grandmother, I'm like, my aunts, tell me everything, tell
Hmm.
me everything you're going through. I want to know everything, especially the stuff with the body. But I think this lifelong societal pressure, I think that women and girls of any age can relate to that. There is such an emphasis on our looks, on our body from the outside, that in a lot of ways, and I know this was true for me in adolescence, I really struggled with with eating disorders and my body, and coming home to my body was, and feeling my body as a living something from the interior, the creature of me, was a process. It was a many year long process. And I notice that as I come into midlife, as I'm here in midlife, and my body is going through its changes, there's changes on like all inside and outside of my body, and I can feel it. And it's like the hint of what's coming. But it's a very strange feeling to have your creature go through this change.
Hmm.
And and to really, it's like a battle. I'm like, oh, I remember this battle from when I was younger, when I was maybe going through puberty or something. I
Hmm.
remember this battle between what the culture was telling me I should look like and how I looked, and then how I felt about how I looked, and the way that I kind of left my body, um, like the interior of my body, and started seeing it from the outside. I can see at the age I'm at now, as my body's starting to change again, I am like, oh my God, it's happening again. I'm looking around, my stupid Instagram feed is just full of like ads for anti-aging,
Yeah.
meow meow meow, whatever it is, fill in the blank. I'm like, here it is again. I'm
Yeah.
just like, F off, man.
Yeah.
Get out of here. But I have to root that out for myself, because it hits, so anyways, we could go on and on about this, I'm sure, but I love what you're sharing, and I'm so happy that you're doing the work that you're doing. And it really yeah, it really resonates with me. And I like thinking of, do you think of it like menopause, like an initiation in any way, or?
Yeah, very much
Yeah.
so. A complete transformation. It's there if you want to take it. And yeah, my soulful menopause journey takes women through. I sort of created like a story around it to help women understand that it really isn't just, I mean, just is not just a physical thing. The physical thing in itself, as we've only barely just touched upon now, is
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
But along comes with it, it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual,
Right.
and it's absolutely huge. It impacts us on all of these levels. And so I created this sort of 3 stages of a soulful menopause journey: the sacred gateway, tending the cauldron, and the sage woman's destiny, which take women
Mm.
on this journey of transformation, on every level of their being. It is a complete transformation. Yeah,
How cool.
yeah, yeah.
How
And I
cool.
think for women, once they can see it as a transformation, it's the fear goes out, the doubts go out the window, and there's empowerment there.
Yeah.
Because once you have that understanding, suddenly you have empowerment. And so
Yes.
for a woman to see, oh, I see, it's not just physical, because they're being told, well, here you are, have these hormones and off you go, bye. And they're still
Mhm.
feeling incomplete. They're still not feeling
Mm.
heard. They're not feeling seen. They're not feeling understood. And so, yeah, it's vital that it's addressed holistically if women really, want to blossom into this next stage of life, which is so amazing. Um, and I talk about it as like, up until menopause, we carry a rucksack full of all the rocks and stones of our experiences of life. And this is the time you get to lighten your load. You
Wow.
really get to look at everything that naturally comes up during menopause, because even if you look at it from a biological perspective, that
Mhm.
hormones will affect how you think and how you feel and how you react to certain situations. It breaks down your barriers, and so it really opens your soul up. So yeah, yeah, and this is
Yeah.
why your poem really spoke. Just like it was, I read it, it was just, oh my word, this is so amazing. I can't just share this with my sacred circle. I've got to get in touch with you. The drive to get in touch with you. It's like-
Yes, I'm so happy you did, Sally. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm loving this conversation. I feel excited by what you're talking about, because for me, something I did not mention when you asked, like, how did you come to the work that you're doing? A really big, a really big piece was for me getting in touch with my menstruation, like the cycle of my menstruation, and understanding there was a connection between what was going on in my body and what was like it's mirrored in the phases of the moon.
Yes.
This opened up so much for me. I won't go into it now, but that the physical reality of what's going on in our bodies and our hormones are part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of our spirituality. And that's why, people will sometimes ask me, why do you just focus on women? I was like, because women need specific things because we are specifically different, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So very exciting. You're inspiring me. Thank you.
Well, well, vice versa. For sure, you've really inspired me too. And let me see, what else did I have here to talk about on your poem?
Sure.
Oh yeah, the impulses that ran so freely through her. She decided to believe that she was not an accident, nor were the impulses that ran so freely through her. I love that, and we have actually probably
Mm,
touched on that a bit, because it's how often do we actually ignore our inner impulses?
mm,
We, because of fear,
mhm.
or even at menopause, because we feel that we're losing ourselves. So, how can we listen to those impulses when we don't even know who we are, when we're feeling lost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big question and it's a personal one. And this conversation makes me wonder if there's different medicine later on. But for me, it's always been at all stages of my life thus far, uh, really being in movement practices of some kind, being in yoga, dancing, walking in nature, swimming, whatever it is, when my body's in motion, that's how I really start to get in contact like with those impulses, and that those impulses, it's not even that to get in contact, but to free them,
Hmm.
I just have to stay in some kind of regular motion,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Sometimes for me, just getting on my yoga mat, even if it's just for 10 minutes,
Hmm.
is deeply centering.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The body has so much. It has so much. And I think when we move like that in a really intentional way, such as a practice of yoga, where, the aim there really is to synergize or bring together, to yoke, the spirit and the body.
Mhm.
So that those kinds of practices where your intention is like, let's get the whole system, let's stir the pot, get the whole system on the same page so that my body's not doing one thing while my spirit's doing another, that the movement brings those pieces together with maybe the unifying thing there being the breath, which despite any mobility issues that we may experience past, present, or future, we have our breath, and our breath can go a long way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and even just breathing in a different way, long and slow, and is
Hmm.
massively powerful in itself. And it can be anything for, anyone that's listening right now. It can be anything you feel called to do. And I tell you one thing that I've been doing recently, Chris, and I'm mentioning it because you said you were involved in theatre and acting, doing the vagina monologues and everything, is that
Hmm.
when I was a child, I used to gather together all the kids on the street and put together a play. And I used to love doing this.
Oh,
This was something I just did naturally. And for some reason, it wasn't recognized, and I never even thought it was available to me. And now, at the tender age of 57, I have just started going to acting classes.
how cool, Sally.
I
Good for
know, I
you.
know, and I am loving it. And you know what? I thought this is just going to be something that's going to push me out of my comfort zone and give me that chance to do something, so I don't lie on my deathbed thinking, oh, I regret that I never did XYZ. But I
Yes.
tell you what, when we're talking about, the listening to those impulses that run through us, it's unlocking so much within me from my childhood wounds that I've carried with me. It
Yes.
is, and I just recently had an audition to be accepted into a 6 month acting course, and I got on.
Mhm.
So I start in September. So that's so exciting.
Congratulations.
You. But yeah, it's unlocking something really deep within me. It's that child of mine that is finally being seen and heard. And
Mm.
so it's you would just think, oh, going to acting classes or whatever, fine. But it's so amazingly therapeutic. I can't tell you. And at the moment, I'm still like awe-inspired by what's unlocking within me because of it. Um, and so that just, as you were saying then, it just really got me to think about that. It can be in whatever way you're feeling called, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think performance of any kind, whether it's dance or acting or singing, those things will bring up for all of us. Because usually, I mean, from sitting in enough circle, and I've had a lot of listening. I've had a lot of listening to people's experiences around this kind of a thing. And we all, to some degree, have received messages of like, oh, you can't quite do that, or hush, or
Mhm.
whatever it is, keep quiet, or
Yep.
know your place, or et cetera, fill in the blank. And performing, like allowing your voice to come out, allowing your body to move in ways that it doesn't usually move in your mundane life. In the case of acting, expressing emotion. Maybe you have a character, and the character has a scene where she's throwing a chair and breaks a coffee table, like she's exhibiting extraordinary rage, which you may have never in your whole life been able to fully express like that. There's something therapeutic because usually we all have something to be rageful about,
Yeah.
and that goes for every emotion in the vast color palette of emotion. And
Mm,
it's a safe place when you're performing to express all of these parts of yourself. It's allowed, it's welcome, it's appropriate. You're not hurting anyone, you're actually helping because you're bringing forth the art. And then you're giving permission for the audience member then to to touch in with that within themselves, and to remember that they are not alone in that. It's a very, very powerful thing to express yourself, and it frees those impulses that for a lot of people are pent up since childhood,
mhm.
since childhood. And yeah, I just love at this time in your life that you're just opening that up, because I think really good things come when we open ourselves up like that in healthy ways.
Yeah, it really is so amazing. It just fills me with so much joy.
Yeah, that is so, so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to move on to the next paragraph of your poem where you said she decided to believe she was worthy of sitting on the throne of her own spiritual authority. And oh my word, I love that so much because that's like embodying the hero's journey. It's like moving through all of the challenges and stripping away what's no longer needed. And it's that reclamation that we talked about, and being able to listen to your soul and follow those impulses. And then finally, she gets to sit on her throne.
Yes.
I love that so much.
Yes. It's such a great image, I think, to think about. It's been a useful image for me to actually envision a throne. And I envision it at my heart, because for me, that's the center. That's for whatever reason, when I tap into my deep, deep center, it wants to be in my heart. And so I picture a throne right there, and to sit on it, and like, no, it's a seat that's for me. It's just for me. And at different times in my life, I think I've allowed, uh, mostly subconsciously, uh, other ideas, people, forces to sit on that throne. And
Mm, mm.
that's this poem, represents a time of clearing that out. And I think, it's something to check in with every once in a while, to be like, what am I serving here? Who's guide? Who am I still the captain of this ship? Am I still the queen of my life? The king of my life? And to make sure. And I think sometimes that needs fine tuning and clearing out. But
Oh,
that's something we can easily do with awareness.
yeah, I love that image of that throat. That's just so beautiful. It's like, it was making me think of, what was it, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, instead of a bed or whatever. It's like, who's sitting on my throne?
I love that.
Sprung to mind for me. It's like, but it's that is such a beautiful. I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. Just rechecking in with myself occasionally. Who's sitting on my throne right now? Am I there by myself, or I've got other people sitting on it right now? And how much are
Right,
they influencing if they are there?
right,
Mm,
right. And I think I'm very conscious, especially in this age of ever expanding content and voices coming at you from every possible direction. It's a very important practice, I think, for myself. It's a discernment practice about who I let into my council. They don't get to sit on my throne, but we can sit around the table, and I can take counsel from certain people. This is, if I choose to read your book, I'm allowing you to sit at my table, and we are in council now. Or if I'm listening to your podcast, or I'm taking your workshop, or I'm reading your news article, or whatever it is, I'm very, very picky about who I let into that conversation, into the council, and really clear that nobody's coming to the throne but carefully chosen counselors can be amazing aids and can help us to grow in dimension in our perspective, you know.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So your final paragraph, there once was a woman who decided to believe in the magic within. And oh, I love that so much because when I think about, the magic that I connect to in nature every day and just sort of like feeling that we have magic within us and connecting with that within us instead of seeking externally all the time.
Yeah.
I just wondered what your thoughts were around that or how you help women to find their own inner magic. Anything you want to
Yeah.
share around that, really?
You know, it's magic is one of those words that every time I write it, um, and I do write it from time to time, I get a little bit tripped up on how kind of unserious that word can seem to certain ears, and how I don't want to make this thing that I'm trying to name that is the best, truly the best word for it is magic, you know, but it did never just it just doesn't feel like it even remotely begins to do what I'm trying to name justice. And then I just end up deciding it's okay if it seems a little silly, if it seems a little playful, because I think maybe it is. I think maybe that magic within us, that is when I think of what that is the part of me that wakes up and is excited to make things, is excited to explore another day in the adventure of life.
Mm,
And um and I'm in touch with, and I guess I want to say also, as it seems important to say, I have been very in touch with magic in very dark nights of the soul,
mhm,
in deep and enormous grief.
mm,
Magic has come and it has a different flavor, but it's still this shimmering awe for the absolute mystery and exquisite, insane thing of getting to have this experience of being alive. And you can experience the magic in all different kinds of states. I've had it in joy and I've had it in very deep, deep grief. I just wanted to say that in case anyone thought it was all rainbows and sunshine. Um, and lightness. It is sometimes found at the deepest, deepest, darkest depths of the ocean floor. You know, magic is everywhere. And I think when we're in touch with that magic, we're in touch with life itself. And I know there are so many names that people have given to try to name the unnameable, things like God or goddess or beloved or one. And what I have landed on and have been walking with for about 5 years now, my name, when I go to pray, I pray to life with a capital L, life. And to me, magic in life, what I mean when I say life, which, because what could be more sacred? What
yeah.
could be more sacred than this thing pulsing through every living thing? Life. Um, those are interchangeable words for me, life or magic. I just use magic because I think it just for other people, and because the whole point of writing anything is trying to bridge the gap between your heart and mind and someone else's heart and mind, you know. But
Mhm.
I think that it's just being in touch with the pulse of life that is running through everything, including us. And how do I help women to stay in touch with that. The biggest tool the most powerful tool in my life has been sitting in circle. And so that's how I do it. I encircle and ritual, and the my style of or methodology of circle structure and things really, we aim at two center or two spheres, or sorry, three spheres of guidance. The inner guidance, which we've talked about a lot, the everything that is inside of us, that wealth. There's the guidance that comes from around the circle. So sitting in physical circle, from being in circle, that we're always having our minds blown, our perspective open, and even having these moments of, oh my God, me too. I feel that too. Wow, I'm not alone. So the wisdom that comes from around the circle, and then the wisdom that comes from the natural world, which, I consider to be a spiritual teacher and a school and a playground for exploration. So those forces are central to what we explore in Wild Woman Project circles. And we use other tools that have been really, really powerful, and most of which are very old, and show up all over the world: meditation, journaling, sharing, intention setting of some kind, ritual, breath work. So, that's what did it for me. That's what does it for me. So that's what I teach. But I think there are many ways to get at it. And I think what's important, because no one thing is for everyone. There are people on this earth who do not like the Beatles. So you can't expect everybody to like everything, but I think what's important, which I hope shines through in this poem, that um, it's really about listening to where your inner compass takes you to find these things. And life unfolds in amazing and mysterious ways, like you ending up in your acting class at 56. That's very cool. You can't prescribe that,
Yeah.
but that's what you found from walking your path, listening from your internal center.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Oh my word, I could speak with you for forever, but I,
Likewise.
I wonder if you would mind, now we've really talked about the depth of this poem, and I know that I could go a lot deeper with you on it, but I wonder if you would read it again for us, now that we may well hear it through a different in a different way.
Absolutely. A woman after my own heart. I always read a poem twice when I'm sharing it in circle. So thank you. Um, so it's called She Decided. There once was a woman who decided, despite all she'd been taught, to trust herself. She reclaimed her body, her heart, her mind, her desires, her actions, and her voice as her own sacred trust. She decided to believe that she was not an accident, nor were the impulses that ran so freely through her. She decided to believe she was worthy of sitting on the throne of her own spiritual authority. There once was a woman who decided to believe in the magic within.
Yay! It's so beautiful. I think I should maybe just find some sound effects of a standing ovation at the end.
Mm,
Thank
thank
you
you, Sally.
so much, Chris. Thank you. So, where can people reach you? Maybe if you want to share, your offerings, or where people can reach you to find out more.
Yeah. Thank you. The hub of everything where you will find everything is at thewildwomanproject.com. That is woman singular, thewildwomanproject.com. And the core, as I mentioned before, is our foundational program, is our 7-week Wild Woman Project Circle Leader Training Program. And it's very, very rich. It's actually a little bit older than the Wild Woman Project. So we've been doing it for 14 years. It's very, very rich. Like I said, we have hundreds and hundreds of graduates from all over the world. We are an interspiritual, intergenerational group. And we run that program every spring and every fall. I also host an online community pack called Wild Woman Underground, where we meet for weekly circles, and they're facilitated by me and other Wild Woman Project facilitators and artists and healers and such. And we have our own app, and it's a lot of fun. It's how I keep my spirit lit on a regular basis. And actually, I don't know when this episode will air, but we're going to be opening up the doors for 1 week starting July 1st. This happens only twice a year. It won't happen again until 2026. So if you'd like to explore that, your audience is more than welcome. And I think after talking to you, would find such a home there. And we also do Wild Woman Fest. It's across the pond for you, but we do it in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Western North Carolina every August. And you can find me on Instagram at thewildwomanproject.com, also on Facebook, thewildwomanproject.com. So those are the best places to reach me, but I would encourage everyone to go straight to the website, thewildwomanproject.com. We do a Wild Woman Weekly-ish newsletter where you'll get all sorts of fun videos and poems and ritual recipes and invitations to Wild Woman happenings.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm signing up for that for sure.
And
I will leave the link in the show notes as well for people. So all you need to do
lovely.
is just head to the show notes, and that's where you can get all Chris's information. Thank you so much, Chris. It's just been so enriching having this conversation with you.
Likewise, Sally. Don't be a stranger. I've loved this, and maybe I'll find you in a few years when I'm when I'm in my menopause phase and come do your lovely program. It
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Oh, well, I would warmly welcome you in for that for sure. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
As I said before, if this episode has inspired you or motivated you or empowered you, whatever, please share it with the women in your life, because you never know, you could be playing a part in helping another woman rise. And how wonderful is that? To find out more about how you can live a soulful menopause, please visit soulfulmenopause.com. I'm really looking forward to being with you again soon. Bye for now.